From the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub Podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Happy Monday. Good morning, security gang, and welcome to another episode of the CyberHub Podcast. Packed show this Monday morning, last day of June. Tomorrow kicks off July, and you know what's on Friday? One of my favorite days of the year, the 4th of July. It's going to be Star Spangled Awesome. So really excited for all of that this week. Packed show this morning. We're going to get right into it here in just a moment. But if you missed my article on Saturday, Rethinking PII, is it time to redefine data breach notification for a better future? Tune in. Go check it out. It's available at cyberhubpodcast.com. That's where you'll find it, and everything else, as well as our other podcasts like Goodbye Privacy, CISO Talk, all of our newsletters. It's all there. It's all there. Go check it out. Now, without further ado, we're going to get right into Hawaiian Airlines going through Scattered Spider, going away from retail to aviation. Suicide mission potentially. I say suicide mission potentially, because when you go after retail, there's one aspect to it. When you attack Marks and Spencers or co-op, there's a different than going after airlines, which is a main mode of transportation, which has significant national security implications. I'm telling you, Scattered Spider, they're testing, they're over testing that. We're going to get into that here in just a moment. Before I do that, though, got my double espresso. Let's power through. Coffee cup, cheers, y'all. All right. Hawaiian Airlines over the weekend disclosing a cybersecurity incident. It said it didn't impact any of its aviation, but it did impact some of its IT system. The attack has been attributed to the Scattered Spider group, with alerts being issued over the weekend by the FBI, Google's Cloud's Mandiant, and even Palo Alto. The FBI said the cybercrime group has extended its targeting to the airline sector, urging the industry to reach out if they discover any indication of an attack. Early reportings allows the FBI to engage promptly, share intelligence across the industry, and prevent further enterprise. Charles Carmichael, the CTO of Mandiant Consulting, telling Security Week in a statement, Mandiant is aware of multiple incidents in the airline and transportation sector which resemble the operation of Scattered Spider. They're still working on attribution and analysis, but given the habit of the actors focus on a single sector, we suggest that the industry take steps immediately to harden its systems. Now, what does that mean? Let's take a look at the core tactics, according to Carmichael, that have remained consistent. Training help desk staff to enforce robust identity verification, deploying phishing-resistant MFA, that's app-based MFA for those who don't know. So if you're using text MFA, not a thing. You want to use real MFA. So real MFA is app MFA or an alert MFA, meaning like I don't want to name drop brands here, but if you don't know how to do this, please reach out to me privately. You can do that on LinkedIn or through our Substack or on our website at cyberhubpodcast.com, and I'll gladly give you my playbook on how to properly deploy MFA. Hawaiian Airlines is a subsidiary of Alaska Air Group, telling the SEC late last week that it identified a cybersecurity incident affecting certain IT systems. They took immediate steps to safeguard operations and systems. It's unclear whether Scattered Spider is behind the Hawaiian Airlines attack, but Axios telling from sources in another recent airline attack, the WestJet incident, that it is likely the work of the same group. And again, they're not going after the majors here, but Hawaiian is major for Hawaii. It's very, very major for Hawaii. So this attack specifically here is significant and is detrimental for the industry, because over the weekend, I live in Georgia, in Atlanta. And so that's where our studio's at. And so we had a hailstorm. That hailstorm had Delta cancel 360 flights, take 100 planes because of damage out of running. They couldn't operate 100 flights until they fixed those jets, right? That could be, Windows, stuff that's a simple, a day or two in the shop and the jet's back airworthy. And it could be stuff that takes months to fix. It's not an easy game. It's a line. It's a line, and it's a tricky one. And I guarantee you the FBI is super motivated to bring these guys down right now. Super motivated. So there's that there. We continue with United Natural Foods saying the week-long cyber incident will impact their quarterly income. Now, here's where this comes into play. We often talk about cybersecurity incidents as practitioners from the point of view of, now we had an incident, let's build resilience, but how much does it impact the business? And to me, this is one of those great kind of executive talks. It's one of those great board talks. It's one of those great downstream, even to your team, especially new people who come into cybersecurity, not quite understanding the need for cyber resilience and the potential impact of any sort of outage due to a cybersecurity incident. But United Natural Foods providing an update to the SEC, essentially saying on Thursday afternoon of last week that the June 5th cyber attack forced the company to take systems offline that manage fulfillment and distribution of company orders. The company has safely restored its core systems that its customers and suppliers use for electronic ordering and invoicing, which has enabled business operations to normalize. They don't anticipate sending any notifications to individual consumers as a result of the incident because it didn't involve a breach of security of PII or PHI, but as those terms are defined by law. I love that. That is such a good lawyer line right there. Defined by law. Let's change that, please. It took about 10 days for most digital system the company uses to be restored to some extent. The attack hasn't been claimed by any cybercriminal organization, but they're saying this will impact their projections and their net income loss for the fourth fiscal quarter of 2025 compared to its internal projections prior to the incident. UNEFI said it has cyber insurance that will cover some amount of the cost that will likely be paid out at some point in the next fiscal year. Despite the short-term impact, the company said it does not believe the cyber attack will impact the ability to achieve its previous disclosed longer-term strategic and financial objectives. So there's that there as well. Dutch grocery giant Ahold Delhaize, we talked about them in November of 2024 when they did have a security incident. It felt like yesterday as I was covering the story this morning. I was like, when did we do it? And then I go through and I search for it and I go, wow, it was November, December. We're June going into July. This ransomware was claimed by the INC ransomware group. And now we know that 2.2 million people were affected, according to a filing with the Maine Attorney General's office. The compromised information varies from individual to individual, but could include information like their name, not PII, contact information, not PII, date of birth, depends, but I would say not PII, social security number, PII, passport number, PII, driver's license number, PII, financial account information, PII, health information, PHI, and employment-related details. Is that private? I don't know about that one. I don't know what people watching and listening think, but is employment-related detail notifiable PII? I don't know. I don't think so. What are they going to do with it? You've been written up for taking too long of a break. Oh, no. Who's never done that before? All right. Anyways, so the Tor-based leak website that the criminals made available roughly 800 gigabytes worth of data allegedly stolen from Ahold Delhaize, which indicates that the company had not paid the ransom, and they have claimed to have stolen 6 terabytes of files from the company. You see they're putting up passport pictures and all kinds of stuff of employees there. Not a good look, obviously. That's PII. Clearly an example of PII. Someone's name and address, not so much. All right, we're going to move from breaches to geopolitical stuff, and we've got a lot of it from Canada to Germany to NATO. Let's get right into this one. The Canadian government on Friday ordering Chinese video surveillance device maker Hikvision to seize all operations in the country and national security grounds. The Chinese-owned company Hikvision Digital Technology, known internationally as Hikvision, manufactures and sells CCTV systems for civilian and military purposes. Canada's Minister of Industry, Melanie Joly, announced that Hikvision's Canadian branch is no longer allowed to conduct business in the country after a national security review determined that the company's operations would harm national security. In addition, the government of Canada is prohibiting the purchase and use of Hikvision products in government departments, agencies, and crown operations. The government of Canada is further conducting a review of existing properties to ensure that legacy Hikvision products are not used going forward. In response, Hikvision Canada said the decision is based on unfounded allegation of national security. Unfounded allegations. I believe those allegations are founded when the minister ruled that you're a national security threat. Perhaps China's a problem. Perhaps. Instead of evaluating our technology on its cybersecurity merits, they go on to say the decision appears to be driven by our parent company's country of origin, reflecting broader geopolitical tensions and an unjustified bias against China. Oh my God. They said the word bias. Ooh. That's it. They hit it on the head. That's it. That's what it is. Canada doesn't like Chinese companies. Please. All right. Anyways, you're starting to see this really crack down. Hikvision, like Huawei, ZTE, Hytera, Pacifica Networks, Daiwa, China Mobile, China Telecom, and China Unicom have all been added to the covered list because their offering pose an unacceptable risk to national security. The question is, how do you fill when you're not buying from China? China has literally dominated this manufacturing market. So we'll see what Canada does there. We'll see what the US does thereafter. But we know that Trump's negotiating those deals as we speak. At a time as cybersecurity threats continue to grow, Germany is paying special attention by strengthening its ties with Israel. The country's Interior Minister Alexander Dubrovnik paid an official visit to Israel over the weekend, announcing a new cooperation framework between the new state, according to Bild, during a meeting at the site of one of the ballistic missile attacks in Bat Yam, located just north of Tel Aviv. Dubrovnik presented a new 5-point cyber dome program prepared by the German side and scheduled for implementation. The main goal of this program is to significantly enhance Germany's internal and external cyber defenses capabilities, and especially to further develop its strategic partnership between Germany and Israel. Part of this is developing a cyber research center in Germany so that Israeli companies and German companies can work together. The main 5 points is institutional cooperation between Germany and Israel in the field of cyber, creating a cyber research center that will operate in a constant cooperation, modernizing civil protection systems and developing rapid alert platforms against threats, deepening exchange and cooperation between intelligence and law enforcement agencies, and expanding anti-drone defense capabilities within Germany. Everyone's watching what's happening in the Ukraine and Europe. They're there. They're there. We'll get to that in just a minute here with the NATO news. We'll continue with the German data regulator on Friday ordering Apple and Google to remove DeepSeek from the App Store online over non-compliance with the EU Privacy and Digital Services Rule. The Berlin Commissioner for Data Protection and Freedom of Information classified the Chinese application as illegal content. According to Mikey Kemp, Chinese authorities have far-reaching rights to access personal data. DeepSeek users don't have enforceable rights or effective legal remedies available to them in China like they're guaranteed in the EU. The Berlin regulator acted after DeepSeek parent company Hangzhou DeepSeek Artificial Intelligence ignored a request to stop data transfer to China or self-remove the app from the platform. So there you have it. There, DeepSeek out in Germany. It's not a good. That's not a look. I'll say this before I get into the NATO thing about DeepSeek. Every country that bans DeepSeek helps another country that's thinking of doing it get the political capital they need to do it. Period. You could literally see DeepSeek disappear from the entire Western Hemisphere as an app within the next 60 to 90 days. Easily. It'll happen if there's an appetite for it. NATO members aim for 5% spending of GDP on defense, with 1.5% eligible for cyber. NATO allies reaching the agreement this week to increase their defense spending to 5% of GDP within a decade, with 3.5% to go towards core defense and the remaining 1.5% of GDP on indirect defense spending, including cybersecurity capabilities. The expanded range of what amounts to defense spending now includes investment in energy and supply chain resilience, logistics, infrastructure, and innovation. So when people think they're spending 5% on NATO, I've seen this all over online. And part of the reason I wanted to bring this was not just because of the 1.5% that's going to cyber, but the 5% is going towards strengthening manufacturing and cooperation between NATO nations to essentially isolate China. So NATO, which essentially started kind of as a anti-Russian, keep Russia out of Europe type of defense, is now reshifting its away. It's not reshifting from Russia, but it's definitely eyeing China as another threat to NATO members. And you see that there with the 5% really focusing not just on airplanes and missiles and all of that, but also focusing on supply chain resilience, logistics, infrastructure, and innovation. They're blaming it on Russia, but it's not Russia. It's all China. Understand, it's all China. Citrix Bleed 2 is still around, and over 1,200 appliances still remain exposed online and unpatched against this critical vulnerability. You want to make sure you get it addressed. That's CVE 2025-5777. Russia, on June 9th, Russian ISPs began throttling access to websites and services protected by Cloudflare, making sites inaccessible from the country. The throttling has been so aggressive, reportedly only allowing users to download the first 16 kilobytes of any web asset, and then it effectively breaks most Cloudflare-backed sites for Russian citizens, I believe is what they meant there. Cloudflare maintains that it has not received formal communication about this from the Russian state, but considers this action part of the country's broader strategy to oust Western tech firms from their domestic market. So there's that there. And some major announcements at CISA and NSA. Cassie Antlis has been named the new executive director of CISA. That's not the leadership role. She's filling in for Bridget Bean, who was the assistant director for nearly 3 years before taking on the executive director role in August of 2024. Being announced 2 weeks ago she's retiring. And so Sean Planky still holding on the key cyber role for CISA. His nomination's been blocked by Senator Ron Wyden over the publishing of a report for Salt Typhoon. Wyden's idea is, if you don't release the report from an agency you're not yet in charge of, I won't allow you to become the leader of that report. Great logic. These are the people we elect, America. These are the people we elect. And Patrick Ware has been named to the top civilian role at Cyber Command, the executive director of Cyber Command. Ware has been a senior executive at NSA, where he's been involved in offensive and defensive missions for 34 years. The XDR, the executive director, leads initiatives to mature cybercom and subordinate command functions in the areas of strategic communication, talent management, foreign and domestic partnerships, innovation, and capability development. Where now the Cyber Command's highest-ranking civilian replaces Morgan Adamski, who announced the departure last week after 17 years at NSA. So some new leadership there as well. That's it for our show this morning. We'll be back tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern live with all the latest and greatest cybersecurity news. Go check out CyberHubPodcast.com. You can get a short version of this podcast in written format with a good action to-do list available there directly in your inbox shortly after the podcast is live. So go check that out there again, CyberHubPodcast.com. Until then, have a great week. Have a great rest of your day. And most importantly, y'all, stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.